In Judaism, a rabbi, ʻṛɛbaɪ, is a teacher of Torah. This title derives from the Hebrew word rabbi, meaning my master, which is the way a student would address a master of Torah. The word master, rav, literally means great one. The basic form of the rabbi developed in the Pharisaic and Talmudic era, when learned teachers assembled to codify Judaism's written and oral laws. In more recent centuries, the duties of the rabbi became increasingly influenced by the duties of the Protestant Christian minister, hence the title pulpit rabbis, and in 19th-century Germany and the United States, rabbinic activities including sermons, pastoral counseling, and representing the community to the outside, all increased in importance. Within the various Jewish denominations there are different requirements for rabbinic ordination, and differences in opinion regarding who is to be recognized as a rabbi. For example, Orthodox Judaism does not ordain women as rabbis, but other movements have chosen to do so for halakhic reasons as well as ethical reasons. Etymology. The word rabbi derives from the Semitic root rabi in Hebrew script rav, which in biblical Aramaic means great in many senses, including revered, but appears primarily as a prefix in construct forms. Although the usage rabbim, many, the majority, the multitude, occurs for the assembly of the community in the Dead Sea Scrolls, there is no evidence to support an association with the later title, rabbi. The root is cognate to Arabic rab, meaning Lord. As a sign of great respect, some great rabbis are simply called the Rav. Rabbi is not an occupation found in the Hebrew Bible, and ancient generations did not employ related titles such as Rabban, Rabbi, or Rab to describe either the Babylonian sages of the sages in Israel. The titles Rabban and Rabbi are first mentioned in the Mishnah. The term was first used for Rabban Gamaliel the elder, Rabban Simeon his son, and Rabban Yohanan ben Zakkai, all of whom were patriarchs who presidents of the Sanhedrin. The title Rabbi occurs in the books of Matthew, Mark, and John in the New Testament, where it is used in reference to scribes and Pharisees, as well as to Jesus. Pronunciation. Sephardic and Yemenite Jews pronounced this word rabbi. The modern Israeli pronunciation rabbi is derived from an 18th-century innovation in Ashkenazic prayer books, although this vocalization is also found in some ancient sources. Other variants are Revi and, in Yiddish, ʻṛɛbaɪ. The word could be compared to the Syriac word rabbi. In ancient Hebrew, rabbi was a proper term of address while speaking to a superior in the second person, similar to a vocative case. While speaking about a superior in the third person, one could say ha-rav rabbo. Later, the term evolved into a formal title for members of the patriarchate. Thus, the title gained an irregular plural form, rabbanim, and not rabbi. Honor. According to the Talmud, it is a commandment to stand up for a rabbi Torah scholar, and one should also stand for the spouses and address them with respect. Kohanim are required to honor rabbis and Torah scholars like everybody else. However, if one is more learned than the rabbi or the scholar, there is no need to stand. In many places today and throughout history, rabbis and Torah scholars had and still have the power to place individuals who insulted them in excommunication. Historical overview. The governments of the kingdoms of Israel and Judah were based on a system of Jewish kings, prophets, the legal authority of the court of the Sanhedrin, and the ritual authority of priesthood. Members of the Sanhedrin had to receive their ordination derived in an uninterrupted line of transmission from Moses. Yet rather than being referred to as rabbis, they were more frequently called judges, akin to the Shoftim, judges, as in the book of Judges. All of the above personalities would have been expected to be steeped in the wisdom of the Torah and the commandments, which would have made them rabbis in the modern sense of the word. This is illustrated by 2,000-year-old teaching in the Mishnah, Ethics of the Fathers, which observed about King David, one who learns from the companion a single chapter, a single halakha, a single verse, a single Torah statement, or even a single letter, must treat them with honor. For so we find with David, king of Israel, who learned nothing from Ahithophel except two things, yet called him his teacher, his guide, his intimate. As it is said, "You are a man of my measure, my guide, my intimate." One can derive from this the following: if David, king of Israel, who learned nothing from Ahithophel except for two things, called him his teacher, his guide, his intimate, one who learns from the companion a single chapter, a single halakha, a single verse, a single statement, or even a single letter, how much more must they treat them with honor? And honor is due only for Torah, as it is said, "The wise shall inherit honor, and the perfect shall inherit good." And only Torah is truly good, as it is said, "I have given you a good teaching, do not forsake my Torah." With the destruction of the two temples in Jerusalem, the end of the Jewish monarchy, and the decline of the dual institutions of prophets and the priesthood, the focus of scholarly and spiritual leadership within the Jewish people shifted to the sages of the men of the Great Assembly. This assembly was composed of the earliest group of rabbis, in the more modern sense of the word, in large part because they began the formulation and explication of what became known as Judaism's oral law. This was eventually encoded and codified within the Mishnah and Talmud and subsequent rabbinical scholarship, leading to what is known as Rabbinic Judaism. Sages. The title, Rabbi, was borne by the sages of ancient Israel, who were ordained by the Sanhedrin in accordance with the custom handed down by the elders. They were titled Rabbi and received authority to judge penal cases. Rab was the title of the Babylonian sages who taught in the Babylonian academies. After the suppression of the Patriarchate and Sanhedrin by Theodosius II in 425, there was no more formal ordination in the strict sense. A recognized scholar could be called rabbi, like the Babylonian sages. The transmission of learning from master to disciple remained of tremendous importance, but there was no formal rabbinic qualification as such. Middle Ages. Maimonides ruled that every congregation is obliged to appoint a preacher and scholar to admonish the community and teach Torah, and the social institution he describes as the germ of the modern congregational rabbinate. In the 15th century in Central Europe, the custom grew up of licensing scholars with a diploma entitling them to be called mori. At the time this was objected to as hakat hagoi, as it was felt to resemble the conferring of doctorates in Christian universities. However, the system spread, and it is this diploma that is referred to as semisha at the present day. 18th–19th centuries. In 19th century Germany and the United States, the duties of the rabbi became increasingly influenced by the duties of the Protestant Christian minister, hence the title, pulpit rabbis. Sermons, pastoral counseling, representing the community to the outside, all increased in importance. Non-Orthodox rabbis, on a day-to-day business basis, now spend more time on these traditionally non-rabbinic functions than they did teaching, or answering questions on Jewish law and philosophy. Within the modern Orthodox community, rabbis still mainly deal with teaching and questions of Jewish law, but are increasingly dealing with these same pastoral functions. Orthodox Judaism's National Council of Young Israel and Modern Orthodox Judaism's Rabbinical Council of America have set up supplemental pastoral training programs for the rabbis. Traditionally, rabbis have never been an intermediary between God and humans. This idea was traditionally considered outside the bounds of Jewish theology. Unlike spiritual leaders in many other faiths, they are not considered to be imbued with special powers or abilities. Authority acceptance of rabbinic credentials involves both issues of practicality and principle. As a practical matter, communities and individuals typically tend to follow the authority of the rabbi they have chosen as the leader on issues of Jewish law. They may recognize that other rabbis have the same authority elsewhere, but for decisions and opinions important to them they will work through their own rabbi. The same pattern is true within broader communities, ranging from Hasidic communities to rabbinical or congregational organizations. There will be a formal and de facto structure of rabbinic authority that is responsible for the members of the community. Ordination. Traditionally, a person obtains semishah after the completion of an arduous learning program in the codes of Jewish law and responso. The most general form of semishah is yor. Most rabbis hold this qualification. They are sometimes called a morahora. A more advanced form of semishah is yaden. This enables the recipient to adjudicate cases of monetary law, amongst other responsibilities. Although the recipient can now be formally addressed as a dayan, the vast majority retain the title rabbi. Only a small percentage of rabbis earn this ordination, although not strictly necessary. Many Orthodox rabbis hold that a Beth Din should be made up of dayanim. Orthodox and Haredi Judaism. Orthodox and modern Orthodox and Orthodox semishah requires the successful completion of a program encompassing Jewish law and responsa in keeping with long-standing tradition. Orthodox rabbinical students work to gain knowledge in Talmud, Rishonim and Acharonim and Jewish law. They study sections of the Shulchan Aruch and its main commentaries that pertain to daily life questions. Orthodox rabbis typically study at yeshivas, which are dedicated religious schools. Modern Orthodox rabbinical students, such as those at Yeshiva University, study some elements of modern theology or philosophy, as well as the classical rabbinic works on such subjects. The entrance requirements for an Orthodox yeshiva include a strong background within Jewish law, liturgy, Talmudic study, and attendant languages. Since rabbinical studies typically flow from other yeshiva studies, those who seek a semishah are typically not required to have completed a university education. There are some exceptions to this rule, including Yeshiva University, which requires all rabbinical students to complete an undergraduate degree before entering the program and a master's or equivalent before ordination. On March 22, 2009, the Hebrew Institute of Riverdale, an Orthodox synagogue, held a formal ceremony officially giving Sarah Hurwitz the title Mahara, Manhiga Halaktid Rushni Toranen. However, some Orthodox leaders, such as the Rabbinical Council of America and the Agudath Israel of America, opposed this move and said it was not in keeping with orthodoxy. In any case, Hurwitz was not given the title rabbi. However, in June 2015, Leila Kashtan was ordained by Yeshivat Mahara and, in keeping with newer policies, was given the freedom to choose her own title, and she chose to be addressed as rabbi. However, this has come to be a focal point of division between YCT and the rest of the spectrum of orthodoxy, as most of orthodoxy does not view YCT as normative orthodoxy. Haredi Judaism. While some Haredi yeshivas grant official semishah to many students wishing to become rabbis, most of the students within the yeshivas engage in learning Torah or Talmud without the goal of becoming rabbis or holding any official positions. The curriculum for obtaining semishah as rabbis for Haredi and Hasidic scholars is the same as described above for all Orthodox students wishing to obtain obtain the official title of rabbi and to be recognized as such. Within the Hasidic world, the positions of spiritual leadership are dynastically transmitted within established families, usually from fathers to sons, while a small number of students obtain official ordination to become dayanim on religious courts, poskim, as well as teachers in the Hasidic schools. The same is true for the non-Hasidic Litvish yeshivas that are controlled by dynastically transmitted Rosh yeshivas, and the majority of students will not become rabbis, even after many years of postgraduate kollel study. Some yeshivas, such as Yeshiva Chofetz Chaim and Yeshiva Ner Yisrael, may encourage their students to obtain semisha and mostly serve as rabbis who teach in other yeshivas or Hebrew day schools. Other yeshivas, such as Yeshiva Haim Berlin of the Mirror Yeshiva, do not have an official semisha rabbinical program to train rabbis, but provide semisha on an as-needed basis if and when one of the senior students is offered a rabbinical position, but only with the approval of the Rosh Yeshivas. Consequently, within the world of Haredi Judaism, the English word and title of rabbi for anyone is often scorned and derided, because in the view the once lofty title of rabbi has been debased in modern times. This is one reason that Haredim will often prefer using Hebrew names for rabbinic titles based on older traditions, such as Rav Harav Morenu Harav Morenus Morenu Verabiinu Harav Morenu Verabiinus Rosh Yeshiva Rosh Hashiva Mashgiach Mora Diazra Hagan Rebbe Hatzadik Admor, or often just plain Reb, which is a shortened form of Rebbe that can be used by or applied to any married Jewish male as the situation applies. Note, a rebbetzin or a rabbanit is the official title used for or by the wife of any Orthodox, Haredi, or Hasidic rabbi. Rebbetzin may also be used as the equivalent of Rebbe and is sometimes abbreviated as such as well. Liberal Judaism, Conservative Judaism. Conservative Judaism confers semika after the completion of a program in the codes of Jewish law and responsa in keeping with Jewish tradition, in addition to knowledge and mastery of the study of Talmud and Halakha. Conservative semika also requires that its rabbinical students receive intensive training in Tanakh, classical biblical commentaries, biblical criticism, Midrash, Kabbalah and Hasidut, the historical development of Judaism from antiquity to modernity, Jewish ethics, the halakhic methodology of conservative responsa, classical and modern works of Jewish theology and philosophy, synagogue administration, pastoral care, chaplaincy, non-profit management, and navigating the modern world in a Jewish context. Entrance requirements to conservative rabbinical study centers include a background within Jewish law and liturgy, familiarity with rabbinic literature, Talmud, etc., ritual observance according to conservative halakha, and the completion of an undergraduate university degree, in accordance with national collegiate accreditation requirements. Conservative rabbinical students earn a Master of Arts in Rabbinic Literature in addition to receiving semika. Ordination is granted at the Ziegler School of Rabbinic Studies in Los Angeles, the Rabbinical School of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America in New York, the Schechter Institute of Jewish Studies in Jerusalem, the Budapest University of Jewish Studies, the Zacharias Frankel College in Potsdam, and the Seminario Rabbinico Latinoamericano in Buenos Aires. Most conservative seminaries ordain women and openly LGBT people as rabbis and cantors. Reform Judaism. In Reform Judaism, rabbinic studies are mandated in pastoral care, the historical development of Judaism, academic biblical criticism, in addition to the study of traditional rabbinic texts. Rabbinical students also are required to gain practical rabbinic experience by working at a congregation as a rabbinic intern during each year of study from year 1 onwards. All Reform seminaries ordain women and openly LGBT people as rabbis and cantors. The Seminary of Reform Judaism in the United States is Hebrew Union College Jewish Institute of Religion. It has campuses in Cincinnati, New York City, Los Angeles, and in Jerusalem. In addition to training and ordaining women and openly LGBT people as rabbis and cantors, Hebrew Union College Jewish Institute of Religion has trained and ordained openly transgender people as rabbis. In the United Kingdom, the Reform and Liberal movements maintain ʻræbaɪ College for the training and ordination of rabbis, and in Germany the Progressive Abraham Geiger College trains and ordains Europeans for the rabbinate. Reconstructionist Judaism. Reconstructionist Judaism has the Reconstructionist Rabbinical College, which is located in Pennsylvania and ordains women as well as men as rabbis and cantors. In 2015, the Reconstructionist Rabbinical College voted to accept rabbinical students in interfaith relationships, making Reconstructionist Judaism the first type of Judaism to officially allow rabbis in relationships with non-Jewish partners. Non-Orthodox seminaries unaffiliated with main denominations. There are several possibilities for receiving rabbinic ordination in addition to seminaries maintained by the large Jewish denominations. These include seminaries maintained by smaller denominational movements and non-denominational Jewish seminaries. Humanistic Judaism has the International Institute for Secular Humanistic Judaism, which currently has two centers of activity, one in Jerusalem and the other in Farmington Hills, Michigan. Both places ordain women as well as men as rabbis, and do not ordain cantors of either sex. Both places ordain openly LGBT people. Jewish Renewal has an ordination program, Aleph, but no central campus. Aleph ordains women as well as men as rabbis and cantors. It also ordains openly LGBT people. The Academy for Jewish Religion in New York City since 1956, and the unrelated Academy for Jewish Religion California in Los Angeles since 2000, have been rabbinic seminaries unaffiliated with any denomination or movement. Hebrew College, near Boston, includes a similarly unaffiliated rabbinic school, opened in the fall of 2003. These seminaries are accepted by all non-Orthodox rabbis as valid rabbinical seminaries, and they all ordain women as well as men as rabbis and cantors. Orthodox Jews do not consider these ordinations valid, because these seminaries do not consider Orthodox halakha to be binding. The Jewish Spiritual Leaders Institute offers a training program, meets in weekly online classes via the Internet, and ordains women as well as men as unaffiliated rabbis to meet the needs of unaffiliated Jews as well as interfaith couples and their families. It subscribes to Jewish universalism, promoting religious tolerance and asserting that there are many paths to the one. JSLI ordained its first class of rabbis in August 2011. It does ordain openly LGBT people. The Rabbinical Seminary International is a rabbinical seminary in New York, which ordains women as well as men as rabbis, and does not ordain cantors of either sex. It is a trans-denominational rabbinical seminary in the Neo-Hasidic tradition, the Union for Traditional Judaism, an offshoot of the left wing of Orthodoxy and the right wing of Conservative Judaism, has a non-denominational seminary in New Jersey. The seminary is accepted by all non-Orthodox rabbis as a valid, traditional rabbinical seminary. The vast majority of Orthodox Jews do not recognize ordination from UTJ. However, it bridges conservative and Orthodox Judaism. Judaism, and modern Orthodox synagogues have hired UTJ rabbis, though the more mainstream body of modern Orthodox Judaism, such as the Rabbinical Council of America, does not recognize ordination from UTJ. UTJ only ordains men as rabbis and cantors, and does not ordain openly LGBT men. The Hebrew Seminary of the Deaf is a non-denominational rabbinical seminary in Illinois, which ordains women as well as men as rabbis, and does not ordain cantors of either sex. Interdenominational recognition. Historically and until the present, recognition of a rabbi relates to a community's perception of the rabbi's competence to interpret Jewish law and act as a teacher on central matters within Judaism. More broadly speaking, it is also an issue of being a worthy successor to a sacred legacy. As a result, there have always been greater or lesser disputes about the legitimacy and authority of rabbis. Historical examples include Samaritans and Karaites. The divisions between the various religious branches within Judaism may have the most pronounced manifestation on whether rabbis from one movement recognize the legitimacy of the authority of rabbis in another. As a general rule within Orthodoxy and among some in the conservative movement, rabbis are reluctant to accept the authority of other rabbis whose halakhic standards are not as strict as their own. In some cases, this leads to an outright rejection of even the legitimacy of other rabbis. In others, the more lenient rabbi may be recognized as a spiritual leader of a particular community but may not be accepted as a credible authority on Jewish law. The Orthodox rabbinical establishment rejects the validity of conservative, Reform and Reconstructionist rabbis on the grounds that the movement's teachings are in violation of traditional Jewish tenets. Some modern Orthodox rabbis are respectful toward non-Orthodox rabbis and focus on commonalities even as they disagree on interpretation of some areas of halakha or the authority of halakha. Conservative rabbis accept the legitimacy of Orthodox rabbis, though they are often critical of Orthodox positions. Although they would rarely look to Reform or Reconstructionist rabbis for halakhic decisions, they accept the legitimacy of these rabbis' religious leadership. Reform and Reconstructionist rabbis, on the premise that all the main movements are legitimate expressions of Judaism, will accept the legitimacy of other rabbis' leadership, though will not accept the views on Jewish law, since Reform and Reconstructionism reject halakha as binding. These debates cause great problems for recognition of Jewish marriages, conversions, and other life decisions that are touched by Jewish law. Orthodox rabbis do not recognize conversions by non-Orthodox rabbis. Conservative rabbis recognize all conversions done according to halakha. Finally, the North American Reform and Reconstructionist movements recognize patrilineality, under certain circumstances, as a valid claim towards Judaism, whereas conservative and Orthodox maintain the position expressed in the Talmud and codes that one can be a Jew only through matrilineality or through conversion to Judaism.